In this video, we will cover adjusting the phase status of elements and using phase filters. Phases allow Revit to be aware of time. You can create multiple phases to represent the multiple phases of construction that you may have in your building project. There are multiple workflows that can be used with phases. We'll discuss how the functionality works. To begin, scroll down in the Properties palette to the phasing parameters of the view. Views have a phase filter parameter and a phase parameter. Next, select one of the cable trays, and then scroll down to the phasing parameters. Model elements have a phase created and a phase demolished parameter. The combination of the options between these two parameters will allow the elements to be in one of four phase status conditions. Those are existing, new construction, temporary, and demolished. We'll take a look at how this works. I'll deselect the cable tray, and then on the Manage ribbon, in the Phasing panel, click Phases. This opens the phasing dialog. On the Project Phases tab, you can create additional phases. For this example, we'll leave it set to existing and new construction. On the Phase Filters tab, you can see the phase filters that have been created in the project. These are also the options that will be available for the phase filter parameter for views. They control which phase statuses appear in the view and how they will appear. When one of the options is set to overridden, then the controls on the Graphic Overrides tab will be used. I'll click OK to close the dialog. Now we'll take a look at adjusting the phase status of model elements. I'll select the first run of cable tray, and then in the Properties palette, you can see that the phase created is set to new construction and the phase demolished is none. So this run of cable tray is new. I'll select the run next to it, and then we'll change the phase created to existing and leave the phase demolished set to none. This will change this run of cable tray to existing. And as you can see, the graphic display of those elements have changed. In the new construction phase, which is the phase of the view, those elements are now existing. I'll select the next run, and then we'll leave the phase created set to new construction, and we'll change the phase demolished to new construction. When I do, you can see that an error appears stating that the elements need to be disconnected. I'll click Disconnect. The reason is because these elements are now temporary elements. They are created in the new construction phase and also demolished in the new construction phase. And when elements are demolished, especially cable tray and conduit elements, they cannot remain connected to other elements. And so that's a big thing when we're dealing with MEP elements. I'll select the next run, and we'll change the phase created to existing and the phase demolished to new construction. Once again, we get the error stating that the elements need to be disconnected. So I'll click Disconnect. These elements are now demolished in this view. And so, as you can see, the combination of the phase created and phase demolished parameters will create the four phase status conditions. Next, I'll change the phase of the view to existing. In the existing phase, the elements that were existing in new construction are now new in the existing phase, and the elements that are demolished are also new in the existing phase. Because once again, it's dependent on the phase and then phase created and phase demolished parameters. The problem we have with MEP elements is that they will not remain connected in a previous phase. So even if now that I'm in the existing phase, the elements that were demolished are no longer connected. And so you have to be aware of that when dealing with MEP elements. I'll change the phase back to new construction, and then we'll take a look at the phase filter. Right now, the phase filter is set to show all, meaning all phase statuses will show. If I change it to show complete, the temporary and demolished elements no longer appear, and the new elements appear, the existing elements appear just like the new elements. I'll change it back to show all, and then we'll open the phasing dialog again. On the Phase Filters tab, you can set one of three options for each phase status. You can set it to by category, and the normal view settings will be used. You can set it to overridden, and then the controls on the Graphic Overrides tab will be used, or you can choose for that phase status to not display. So when we take a look at the Show Complete phase filter, you can see that new and existing elements display by category, and then demolished and temporary elements are not displayed. I'll click OK to close this dialog, and then we'll cover one more thing. I will enable Select Links and select Pinned Elements, and then select the linked model. I'll click Edit Type to open the Type Properties dialog, and you can see that one of the parameters is phase mapping. When I click Edit, it opens a dialog where you can map phases in the host model to phases in the linked model. So if you are working with an architect that has a larger project and you are just doing one portion of that, maybe a build out, they may have several phases in their project, and you only need existing and new construction. This is where you can map the phases in the host model to the phases in the linked model so that they all match up appropriately, and you are showing the correct conditions in their model that match the phase of your scope of your project.